It's Miss Badness here. I'm here to help you on lesson 9 of your shadow cage unit. Today what we're doing is we're going to be writing our own version of Kevin's experience of being trapped in the shadow cage. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the original story by Philippa Pearce, and we're going to imitate lots of her techniques of suspense, but we've got to make sure that we are also inventing some of our own parts. So let's start by looking at Philippa Pearce's version. So we're going to look at the original. On page 18 and on page 19, there is an amazing passage that we're now going to read and look at some of the features that the author uses in order to create suspense. It starts off in the village. So Kevin is currently in the village, in the school playground. He's retrieved his glass bottle, the mysterious bottle that he came across, and he is now heading on his way home. However, he hasn't made it yet. In the village, in the school playground, the striking of midnight sounded clangorously close. Kevin stood with the bottle held in the palm of his hand, waiting for the clock to stop striking, waiting as if for something to follow. Now, did you notice that little dash there actually made me pause? And as a reader, I had to stop, which actually added to the feeling of suspense, which is amazing. Did you also notice, and you may have picked up on this when you were filling in your plan yesterday, that Kevin can hear the clock tower? He can't see it, but he can hear it. After the last stroke of midnight, there was silence, but Kevin still stood, waiting and listening. A car or lorry passed the entrance of the school drive. He heard it distinctly, yet it was oddly faint too. He couldn't place the oddness of it. It had sounded much further away than it should have done. Less really there. And again, you notice? He can hear the car, he can't see it. So what the author does is she actually really focuses on the sense of hearing rather than seeing. And the reason for that is it's night. It's actually midnight. So actually your sight is impaired during night because it's dark and you can't see. But obviously his sense of hearing has been tuned in more. And that adds all to the feeling of suspense. And I think that's perfect for us to magpie. He gripped the bottle and went on listening, as if for some particular sound. The minutes passed. The same dog barked at the same dog, bark and reply. Far, unreally far away. The little owl called from another world, it might have been. And again, the author uses sound, the sound of the dog, the sound of the car. But also, there's the reaction by Kevin. He's gripping the bottle, and that actually lets the reader know that there is a sense of tension there. He was gripping the bottle so tightly now that his hand was sweating. He felt his skin begin to prickle with sweat at the back of his neck and under his arms. So he's now actually physically reacting to what's going on around him. We call that show not tell. So we actually know that he's feeling frightened and scared and incredibly anxious and nervous. But at no point does the author say, Kevin feels scared or Kevin feels nervous. They've actually shown us that with his physical reaction. Then there was a whistle from across the field, distantly. It should have been an unexpected sound just after midnight, but it did not startle him. It did set him off across the playground, however. Too late. He wanted to get away. He had to go past the climbing frame, whose cage work of shadows now stretched more largely than the frame itself. He saw the bars of shadow as he approached. He actually hesitated. And then, like a fool, he stepped inside the cage of shadows. Did you notice the use of a semicolon there? And did you notice what, as a reader, what I had to do? It actually made me pause again. I had to stop, take a little bit breath, and then carry on reading, which all then adds to this sort of tension, this feeling of I'm having to wait to find out what happens next. Right, so let's go to the checklist that you used the other day. So you looked at this and you were looking for phrases. I think it was lesson 7 where you were looking for phrases and words that the author uses in the shadow cage that actually fit into these features. I mean, very quickly, I do need to mention that Philippa Pearce uses the power of 3 incredibly, and as you carry on with this unit, you'll actually have a whole lesson on using the power of 3 and the different ways that you can do that. And it's a very, very dramatic way of adding tension and suspense. But the ones that I've got highlighted in green here, these are the ones that we're going to concentrate when we do our own version of the shadow cage from the point of view of Kevin, which is what we're doing today. We've got a gradual movement of the character from safety to danger. So my Kevin, which obviously I'm going to call I or me because we're writing it in the first person, is going to be in a relatively safe place like this playground and then move into danger, which is this shadow cage. We're going to use short dramatic sentences. Some of these sentences might even just be one word long. We're going to try and use semicolons. If you're doing the gold challenge, that's one of your expectations, that you're going to at least try using semicolons to create that dramatic pause that we saw earlier. We're going to use show not tell reactions. So in the original story, we saw that Kevin was sweating with fear. We're going to use the 5 senses. Now, interestingly enough, Philippa Pitts did not use 5 senses. She actually mainly concentrated on the sense of hearing and actually feeling the glass bottle in Kevin's hand, but didn't really mention much about what Kevin could see. Now, I might change that slightly. Even though it's dark, I might, in my story, change that. And then we've got some lovely, powerful synonyms, so some really good adjectives and verbs. The other things that we might use, the other features, but we're really going to concentrate on these highlighted ones. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my plan. So you were doing this yesterday. You had a table to fill in. What can you see when you're Kevin? What could you hear? What could you feel? And how do you react? And I've filled this in already and I've added a few bits. Now I've put here for mine, for what I could see, not much really, but what I've decided, because I wanted to make it a bit more original and make it and own it myself, is I have put an animal into mine. I've put a blackbird. I don't know why. Don't know why that came into my mind. I could have put a crow, I could have put something, but I've decided on a blackbird. I'm going to try and use the phrase, the moonlight was suddenly obscured by clouds. I've actually pinched that, I magpied that from further on in the story, but I really liked that image, so I'm going to try and use that. I'm going to have the striking of midnight. I'm going to have the sounds of silence. I'm going to use the car engine because it's a familiar noise, and it matches that idea that we saw before, where Kevin comes across something familiar. He's in a safe place, but actually it starts to feel a bit dangerous. So the car engine, I think, summons that idea up quite nicely. I'm going to have a rustle in the bushes, actually, where the blackbird pops out. So it's almost like a little bit of a false red herring where, you know, as a reader, you might think, oh, what is that? And then it's only a blackbird. It's actually nothing to be scared of. I like that hoot of the owl. And the author says it's like it's from another planet. Well, I'm going to say another galaxy, so that's in my own words. And obviously, my Kevin, I'm going to hear the whistle. I'm going to feel a cool, heavy glass bottle in my hand, and I might feel a warm breeze sweep over me. I'm going to see if I can add that in. And how do I react? Well, I'm going to be gripping my bottle, just as Kevin. I'm going to be sweating, trickling at the back of my neck. My heart's going to be racing to show how frightened I feel. And actually, I'm so petrified that I'm going to be unable to run. My legs are going to feel really, really heavy. So here we go. I've got the start of my story now. So like Kevin in the original, I am actually in the playground. I'm alone. So let's read what I've got so far. There I stood, motionless, alone in the middle of the deserted school playground. I stood there like a cold marble statue bathed in moonlight. How odd I must have looked. Suddenly a cloud obscured the moonlight. Darkness. See that dramatic sentence I've added in? If I put "it went dark," that wouldn't just have the same effect. I could hear my rasping breath inhale and exhale in time with the church clock chimes. Midnight. On the last stroke, the cloud passed, and again the playground was bathed in silvery moonlight. And now I'm going to put the part where I talk about the glass bottle. So I was gripping it, wasn't I? I was grasping the cold, heavy glass bottle. And to show that I'm scared, I'm actually going to be sweating now. So I'm going to start, obviously, with I stepped forward. So I'm moving forward. Fast? No, I'm not going to be moving fast. I'm certainly going to be moving slowly. So I'm going to put that adverb in there. And I'm going to tell you now as a reader what I'm doing. I'm grasping. And I'm going to put a little expanded noun phrase here. The cool, heavy bottle in my, now I could say in my hand, but I wanted to show that I'm scared, so I'm going to put sweaty palm. Now let me say something again, which is show not tell, which indicates to the reader that I'm scared. So I'm going to talk about the bottle again and its heaviness. Its heaviness seemed to weigh me down. And then I'm going to put a semicolon. So I'm going to put another independent clause there now. I could no longer move. So that semicolon makes the reader pause. Its heaviness seemed to weigh me down. I could no longer move. And so like Kevin in the original, I'm going to be listening because that's going to be my main sense. It's obviously dark. So instead, I stood listening. Maybe I could put an ellipsis here. Oops. Waiting. Now, what am I waiting for? Maybe that's a rhetorical question. But for what? Because the reader's going to be thinking that as well. I did not know. So here I'm going to bring up this car, this sort of like familiar sound of a car now. The car started up. Oddly familiar. Maybe yet rather than but. Yet distant. Then silence. Right, this is where I'm going to have my little blackbird come in. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start introducing more sounds, a little bit of a rustle in a bush, which is going to like really petrify me and make my heart race, and then come to the part where I hear the whistle. So I mentioned an owl, so I'm going to put that. The hoot of an owl. Oh no, I might even describe the owl. I might say lonely owl to show how alone I am as well as the owl. A lonely owl echoed out as if from, I don't want to say another planet, I think I might put another galaxy. As if from another galaxy, light years away. That really shows how distant we are. And now I'm going to have the rustle in the bushes. And I'm going to make a little bit of a link. I'm going to say that there's a rustle in the bushes, and it brought me back to Earth, because I've been talking about galaxies and light years, so I might as well talk about coming back to Earth. A rustle in the bushes brought me back to Earth. I glanced up and out popped a small blackbird. Now, this is a bit of a red herring for the reader, because they're going to hear the rustle in the bushes like I do and think, what is it? And then I'm actually going to say, well, it's only a small blackbird. It's only something innocent and not threatening at all. So what could the blackbird do? I think I'm going to have it cock its head and eye me and look at me. It cocked its head. Eyeing me up and down, I think I'm going to put. Eyeing me up and down. So this gives the reader a false sense of security now, because they're thinking now, oh, it's only a blackbird looking at her or him. What harm could it do? As if to say, what could a blackbird say? Hello? Maybe just innocently hello. As if to say, hello, what are you doing here? Question mark, inverted comma. But then, now what could happen to the blackbird? It could suddenly fly away, couldn't it? Something could scare it. Maybe the blackbird knew about the whistle and the whistlers before I did. But then, startled, off it flew. Again, what's going on in the reader's head? What's going on in my head? Startled by what? Again, another rhetorical question that's running through everyone's mind. Now I've got to have a physical reaction to that blackbird suddenly flying off. So I've put that I'm sweaty already. I don't want to put that again. I might have my heart race now, because obviously something like that, the bird just suddenly flying away, is going to scare me. My heart began to race. I could have my heart pounded. I could have anything like that. Blood rushed through my veins. There's plenty I could put. Like the blackbird, I wanted to fly away. At this point, I can put the part where my legs began to feel heavy. I couldn't run. It was like wading through deep water. And I'm also going to put the bit where the whistle sounds out. I'm not surprised by it, but it makes me run, and I end up in the cage of shadows. I'm going to stop there, because if I start writing it all, I'm sure you guys will end up magpieing too much of mine and not being original enough. So I don't want anyone's story to have a blackbird in it, but that gives you the idea where you can actually take Philippa Pierce's version and make it your own by adding some other things in. So your plan that you did yesterday, please improve now. If this has given you a better idea of what you can do, add things, change them. Don't just end up using Philippa Pierce's and word for word making it, and the only change you're doing is putting I instead of Kevin. You can absolutely change it. Have a go at those dramatic short sentences like I did, but don't overdo them. Don't use too many, because obviously then it becomes less effective. I've only used 2 here. I've used darkness and midnight, and then actually in my second paragraph I haven't used any at all, but what I have used are some ellipses and some semicolons, which add to that drama. Good luck, and we're really looking forward to hearing your stories and reading them. Enjoy.